What was my favorite thing about directing Breaking Bad? I don't even know where to start with that.
What makes directing on Breaking Bad unique is it starts with Vince Gilligan. Vince really encourages us to tell the story in the best way we think to tell the story. That's really exciting for us who love to direct and love the freedom to be creative.
Vince creates scripts that in some ways demand a visual way of telling story.
What really excites me as a director is that by design, the show pulls from a lot of cinematic sources, and the tone of it is very fluid.
The joy in any director's heart and mind is in working with actors.
The favorite thing was really working with such an astonishing bunch of actors and to really just learn so much.
Once I got on set and started seeing Brian and Aaron start to bring the stuff to life, I can see what's really special about this.
When you show up on the set, you have a certain idea about how you want to shoot things, but to be able to discover something in the moment with your actors and with your cinematographer, that to me feels like that's where the magic is.
Probably the biggest challenge, it was both a physical and emotional thing in this episode, was the RV. The RV was sort of like another character to us. I got to put it to rest. But I had always had two shots in mind. One was it's being crushed and you reveal Walt and Jesse watching sad as their baby is lowered into its grave, as it were. And the other one was a shot from inside. We put an IMO, which is a camera that doesn't have an operator on it. It's in a safety box, and we put it inside the RV. We started rolling, and the forklift pierces the side of the RV, and I hear Mike Slovis screaming because it's very loud. Camera's jammed, it's not running, the camera's not running. And so we're both running over to the guy with the forklift who can't hear any of this. He's about to destroy it. So we stop him and we went inside and like there were these two big holes and you can see it as the shot begins. There's actually sunlight coming in, but we just kind of moved the curtain, straightened it up a little, and it's like go. And then we did the shot where it comes in and it just crushes the whole wall. And it was terrific.
There was an episode I did in season 3 called 1 Minute, and it's when the cousins come after Hank and they have the shootout in the parking lot. Vince said to me, he goes, I really want for the audience to feel that this is a real minute. When he's sitting in the car, that actually a real minute goes by. When we shot this, we had to have it really planned out very, very well. It was like a military operation.
2 men are coming to kill you. Come again?
I stood out in front of the car, and Dean sat in the car, and I was calling out to him the different things that were happening, what he was looking at. But he was looking at 50 people and a bunch of lights and cameras, and Dean was brilliant. He was so brilliant in that moment. There's actually a great little anecdote in this. Put a rig on the back of the stunt guy's head, a blood rig. So when the cousin comes around the corner and he fires, the blood goes shooting out. What it really was a condom full of blood stuck into a rig in the back of his head. Well, the condom's supposed to break and blood goes everywhere. The condom didn't break. So this giant, massive condom full of blood goes flying out of the back of his head. Everybody looked at me and said, well, what are we going to do? We're going to go again? And I said, we don't have time. We've got to move on. And it looks like brain matter. So if you actually freeze frame in the episode, there's a giant condom flying through the air full of blood. I felt incredibly inspired with that shootout to really push the limits. I wanted it to be scary, intense.
Walt does his big fall onto the big tank and then falls on the ground. And I had this idea that it would be nice to do it all in one shot. So you see him actually fall, bang, bang. You say, oh my God, that stuntman really took a fall. Then we push right up to his face and see, oh no, it is actually Brian. And the way we did that was the fall the stuntman did, there's no real trickery. It's not like we sped it up or something. What you see on film is what the stuntman actually did. And he was wearing padding, and there was like a pad on the tank, but it wasn't a thick pad because you could see it if it was a thick pad. It was something where when it happened, everyone was like, oh, you know, it was really painful to watch. And then after he hit the ground, basically we kept the camera rolling. The stuntman froze in position, and then Brian came in and got in the same position as the stuntman, and then we did the push in, and then in post-production they created a CG intermediate kind of human form to morph between the two.
There was a scene that Jesse's driving a go-kart. Managed to kind of finagle our way and get ourselves a little portable film camera, and we actually affixed to the go-kart. And essentially the idea of the scene was that Jesse just gonna meditate. You could tell there was more lurking there, and that everything that Jesse in season 3 is holding down, particularly for the first half of that season, how much he's holding inside. And I just said, you know what, just let it out. Just once or twice, just whatever, scream, whatever it is. And it just turned out wonderful, and I was really happy with that. And we put little flashes of it in the director's cut, and I think Vince just extended it, and I was just really happy with that.
I couldn't believe what Walt was about to do. He really does become insane at the end of my episode. And so the shot I wanted to do, I wanted to be able to pull out from a close-up on his face, not just up through the crawl space, but up through the hatch into the closet, and then up beyond the closet and beyond the exposed light bulb at the top of the closet. Now, if we were in Los Angeles, there's equipment that you can get that can do that shot, and in Albuquerque there isn't. Mike Slovis, the DP, started to write out a rig made out of speed rail that could do the shot if the grips could figure out a way to rise it up over the stage. You know, it was fun, but I didn't actually think it would happen. The Monday I came back to the studio, the grips came into my office and said, we want to show you something. And they brought me to the stage, and over the weekend, literally on their own time, they constructed this rig. I was so grateful. And that's what I'm talking about. Everybody is in on it. Everybody works so hard to try and create what's in the director's head. And the shot worked beautifully.
Michelle McLaren, the executive producer, said, we're gonna get you the script earlier than usual because there's a sequence in it that we're really not exactly sure how we're gonna do yet. So I said, what I'd like to do in this sequence is to do a little shout out to Hitchcock and the Birds, where it's a very slow burn, which really fits our show thematically. Everything is slow and develops carefully and intentionally. So I said, what I'd love to do is start off in this evidence room, and we see the whole thing, we see nothing happening, and the camera makes a move over and ends up on a table. And on the table is one little paperclip. And then as our boys are turning up this magnet, that paperclip starts to move and leave the frame. Then all kinds of ideas started coming forth. I thought one of the best ideas was the little tricycle, where the wheel turns on the trike and it starts moving down. That's a story in and of itself. How did that trike get in there? Why was it sitting on the floor? Oh my goodness, something awful must have happened to a little kid that it was there. Who knows? Everything was very carefully thought out. Almost all of the things moving off of shelves was done with wires. that were pulling things off. And our wonderful special effects, CG computer effects coordinator, Bill Polowski, had to erase, unfortunately, all of those wires. So I think it ended up being quite an expensive shot.
The whole sequence in the basement I really loved visually. The location was just kind of eerie and cool, and the textures on the walls, and I didn't want this to be just sort of lit right over the table. I wanted to be able to see the textures in the walls and really understand this is a very kind of vast basement. It was almost like an indoor shooting gallery. There's one shot in there that I was proud of. I sort of think, but wouldn't it be great to put a camera right underneath her and shoot up under her chin with the chain there and through the table. And there's a moment where the guys actually drag the table right over the camera, and you see the panic on her face. Really, really love that moment where you can see the fear in her face.
If you ever needed to give the performance of a lifetime, is now. You're up.
Certainly the desert scene, I was extremely worried about that because it's 6 minutes of Walt talking in the middle of a desert. I'm like, how many takes can we do of just rolling film on this? Because it's a long scene. It's a long, it's a lot of dialogue.
Who the hell are you?
You all know exactly who I am.
And then you have somebody like Bryan Cranston who just comes in and he nails it. It's like, what was I worried about? He's just, he steps in and he totally takes control of the situation. He totally puts these out-of-towners in their place.
Now, say my name.
Heisenberg.
You're goddamn right.
Directing Breaking Bad is just, so many people wanting you to succeed, and I just feel like this is such a real family, and it's just everybody's looking out for you, so everybody's really trying their best to make this thing work.
Breaking Bad is probably the best gig on television for a director.
Are you ready?
You got these brilliant scripts and you got brilliant actors. I mean, it's amazing. Somebody pinch me.